Ladies and gentlemen, before the world starts talking to you, before your phone starts buzzing, before doubt knocks on your mind, there is a conversation that must happen first, and it must happen every single morning, because if you don't speak life over yourself, the world will speak fear into you. If you don't define your day, circumstances will decide it for you. Mornings are not just the start of time, they are the start of direction. What you tell yourself when your feet touch the floor sets the ceiling for how high you will go. And today I want to give you 9 powerful truths you must speak to yourself every morning, not when you feel strong, but especially when you feel weak. Ladies and gentlemen, the most powerful conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself when nobody else is around, especially in the early hours of the morning, before the world places its demands on you, before social media, news, people, problems, and pressure begin to speak into your mind. There is a moment of silence where direction is decided. That moment is sacred because whatever voice dominates your morning will dominate your decisions, your emotions, and your outcomes. If you wake up and allow your mind to drift into fear, regret, or confusion, you've already surrendered control of your day. But when you wake up and intentionally speak strength, purpose, and belief into yourself, you take the driver's seat of your life instead of sitting in the back reacting to everything that comes your way. Morning self-talk is not motivational fluff. It is mental programming. The mind does not argue with what it hears consistently. It accepts repetition as truth. When you repeatedly tell yourself you are tired, unlucky, behind, or incapable, your actions will quietly align with those statements. You will hesitate more, expect less, and settle sooner. On the other hand, when you train yourself to speak life in the morning, you create an inner environment that supports growth instead of resistance. You begin to move differently, think differently, and respond differently, not because life suddenly got easier, but because your perspective got stronger. The danger of ignoring morning self-talk is that the world will gladly fill the silence for you. News headlines will tell you the world is collapsing. Social media will show you people who appear to be ahead of you. Past failures will remind you of what didn't work. Fear will whisper worst-case scenarios. If you don't interrupt that noise with intention, you will start your day already feeling behind, already doubting, already defensive. That emotional posture affects how you speak to people, how you handle pressure, and how you pursue opportunities. A reactive morning leads to a reactive life. When you define your morning, you define your standards. Telling yourself that today has purpose doesn't mean everything will go perfectly. It means you won't quit when things go wrong. Declaring that you are capable doesn't remove challenges. It gives you the courage to face them without shrinking. Self-talk is not denial of reality. It is preparation for reality. You are not pretending problems don't exist. You are deciding that problems will not own your mindset. Your morning words shape your emotional resilience. Life will test you daily, sometimes before breakfast. A difficult email, an unexpected bill, a discouraging comment, or a memory from the past can instantly shift your mood. But when you have already grounded yourself in strong self-talk, those moments don't hit as hard. You respond instead of react. You pause instead of panic. You breathe instead of break. That emotional stability doesn't come from luck. It comes from intentional mental conditioning done quietly in the morning. Over time, consistent morning self-talk builds identity. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your self-image. If you see yourself as someone who quits, you will quit. If you see yourself as someone who endures, you will endure. Every morning declaration is a brick laid in the foundation of who you believe you are. That identity eventually dictates your habits, and your habits shape your future. This is why change doesn't start with dramatic moments. It starts with small daily declarations that slowly rewrite how you see yourself. Many people wait for motivation to show up before they speak positively, but motivation follows action, not the other way around. You speak first, then strength follows. You don't wait to feel confident to say you're capable. You say you're capable until confidence catches up. Morning self-talk is an act of leadership over your own mind. It is you deciding that emotions don't get to vote on whether you move forward today. When you consistently choose the right words in the morning, your focus sharpens. Instead of looking for excuses, you start looking for opportunities. Instead of magnifying obstacles, you magnify solutions. You become more intentional with your time, more selective with your energy, and more disciplined with your reactions. The day doesn't control you. You set the tone and let the day adjust to you. This practice also strengthens your long-term vision. When you remind yourself daily of purpose and direction, you stop living randomly. You begin connecting today's effort to tomorrow's reward. You understand that every small decision matters, every moment counts, and every step forward is meaningful. Even when no one is watching, that awareness fuels consistency, and consistency is what separates those who talk about change from those who actually experience it. Ultimately, your morning self-talk is a declaration of ownership over your life. It is you saying that circumstances may influence you, but they will not define you. It is you choosing intention over impulse, faith over fear, and direction over distraction. When you master the way you speak to yourself at the start of the day, you stop living at the mercy of moods and moments and start living with clarity, strength, and purpose that carries you forward into everything you do. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest battles you will ever fight is not with other people, not with circumstances, and not with opportunities, but with three quiet enemies that try to control your life every single day: fear, comparison, and comfort. These three don't shout, they whisper. They don't attack all at once. They slowly influence your choices until you don't even realize you've stopped moving forward. If you allow any one of them to lead your decisions, your growth will slow, your confidence will weaken, and your potential will remain locked inside you. Fear is the first and most common trap. Fear doesn't come to destroy you immediately. It comes to delay you. It shows you everything that could go wrong instead of everything that could go right. It reminds you of past failures, embarrassing moments, and painful losses, then convinces you that trying again is too risky. Fear disguises itself as logic. It tells you to wait until the timing is perfect, until you feel ready, until conditions improve. But perfect timing is a myth. Growth has always required movement in uncertainty. If you wait until fear disappears, you will wait forever. The truth is, fear loses power the moment you move. Action exposes fear for what it really is: imagination without authority. Comparison is a second enemy, and it is more dangerous because it feels harmless. You look at someone else's success, progress, or lifestyle, and suddenly your own journey feels smaller. You start measuring your chapter 1 against someone else's chapter 10. Comparison convinces you that you are behind, late, or less capable, even when you are exactly where you need to be. It steals joy without improving results. It drains energy without producing growth. When you focus on someone else's lane, you drift out of your own. Your pace changes, your confidence shakes, and your gratitude fades. Comparison never motivates long-term success. It only creates pressure and insecurity. What comparison hides from you is context. You don't see the nights they cried, the risks they took, the doors that closed, or the sacrifices they made. You only see the highlight, not the history. When you compare yourself to others, you are comparing your behind the scenes to their public moments, and that is never a fair measurement. Everyone's journey has a different timeline, and rushing yours because of someone else's progress often leads to burnout or bad decisions. Staying focused on your own path protects your peace and preserves your momentum. Comfort is the third enemy, and it is the most deceptive because it feels safe. Comfort tells you to stay where you are because it's familiar. It convinces you that avoiding discomfort is the same as avoiding failure. But comfort is not safety, it is stagnation. Nothing grows in comfort zones. Muscles don't strengthen without resistance. Skills don't improve without practice. Character doesn't develop without pressure. When comfort leads your life, potential slowly fades while routines stay the same. You become busy but not productive, active but not advancing. The problem with comfort is that it rewards you immediately while costing you long term. It gives you ease today but takes your growth tomorrow. It keeps you entertained but not fulfilled. Comfort will never ask you to become more. It will only ask you to stay the same. And staying the same for too long eventually feels worse than the discomfort you are trying to avoid. Regret is far heavier than effort, and most people don't regret trying. They regret not trying. Fear, comparison, and comfort often work together. Fear tells you it's risky. Comparison tells you you're not enough. Comfort tells you to stay where you are. Together they create paralysis. You start overthinking instead of moving. You delay instead of deciding. You watch instead of participating. And slowly, days turn into months, and months turn into years of unrealized potential. Breaking free from these three requires awareness and courage. Awareness to recognize when they are influencing your choices, and courage to act anyway. Courage does not mean confidence, it means commitment. It means choosing to move forward even when your voice shakes, even when others are ahead, even when comfort is tempting you to stop. Every time you choose action over fear, focus over comparison, and growth over comfort, you reclaim control over your life. When you stop letting these enemies lead, something powerful happens. Your confidence becomes internal instead of external. You stop needing validation because you trust your own progress. You stop rushing because you understand your timing is intentional. You stop avoiding discomfort because you recognize it as a sign of growth. Life doesn't suddenly become easier, but you become stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The most successful people are not fearless, better, or luckier. They simply refuse to let fear decide, comparison define, or comfort control their lives. They understand that growth is uncomfortable, progress is personal, and courage is a daily choice made in small moments. When you make that same decision day after day, you stop living cautiously and start living deliberately, stepping into the life that has been waiting for you on the other side of fear, comparison, and comfort. One of the hardest truths to accept on the journey toward success is that real growth rarely announces itself. We live in a world that celebrates quick wins, instant results, and visible proof. So when progress feels slow or invisible, the mind immediately assumes nothing is happening. That assumption is dangerous because it convinces people to quit right before the breakthrough forms beneath the surface. Growth does not always feel powerful. Sometimes it feels repetitive, frustrating, and unnoticed. But that does not make it ineffective. In fact, the most meaningful transformation usually happens quietly, away from applause and recognition. Progress often hides in routine. It shows up in the discipline of waking up even when motivation is low, in choosing consistency over convenience, and in continuing the process long after the excitement fades. These daily decisions don't create dramatic moments, but they create strong foundations. Just like a building needs a solid base before it rises, a person needs unseen growth before visible success appears. What feels like slow movement is often deep preparation. One of the reasons people struggle with invisible growth is because they measure progress emotionally instead of objectively. If they don't feel different, they assume they aren't improving. If they don't see immediate rewards, they believe their effort is wasted. But growth does not follow feelings. It follows commitment. There are days when you are getting stronger without feeling strong, wiser without feeling wise, and closer to your goal without feeling successful. Feelings fluctuate, but progress accumulates. Silent growth builds resilience. When results are delayed, patience is developed. When effort isn't immediately rewarded, character is shaped. When the journey feels long, endurance is strengthened. These qualities cannot be rushed, and they cannot be learned through shortcuts. They are formed through repetition, setbacks, and persistence. People who only grow when things are exciting never last long. But those who grow in silence are built to sustain success when it arrives. Another challenge of slow progress is the temptation to compare. When others appear to be advancing faster, doubt creeps in and whispers that your pace is wrong. But growth is not a race, it is a process. Different starting points, responsibilities, lessons, and purposes require different timelines. What matters is not how fast you move compared to others, but whether you keep moving at all. Staying consistent at your own pace will always outperform starting and stopping because of frustration. Invisible growth also strengthens discipline. Discipline is choosing what matters most over what feels best in the moment. When progress is visible, motivation comes naturally. But when progress is hidden, discipline becomes the fuel that keeps you going. That discipline, once developed, becomes a permanent asset. It allows you to stay focused even when life becomes demanding, unpredictable, or discouraging. Discipline built during unseen seasons becomes the structure that holds success later. Many people misunderstand the nature of preparation. They think preparation means waiting, but preparation actually means working while results are still forming. Seeds do not break the surface immediately after being planted, but they are not idle underground. They are developing roots, gathering nutrients, and building the strength needed to grow upward. If the growth happened too quickly, the plant wouldn't survive. In the same way, delayed progress is often protection, ensuring you are strong enough to handle what is coming. There is also a mental shift that happens when you accept slow growth. You stop obsessing over outcomes and start respecting the process. You find pride in effort, not just achievement. You begin to value who you are becoming, not just what you are gaining. That shift reduces anxiety and increases focus because your satisfaction no longer depends on external validation, but on internal improvement. Slow growth teaches trust. It teaches you to trust your effort, your timing, and your journey. It reminds you that not everything meaningful happens quickly and not everything valuable is visible immediately. Trusting the process does not mean being passive. It means being committed without being impatient. It means showing up every day, doing the work, and letting time do what it is designed to do. Eventually, the results do appear. What once felt stagnant suddenly becomes noticeable. Skills sharpen, confidence increases, and opportunities align. People begin to see what you've been building all along, often assuming it happened overnight. But you know the truth. You know about the quiet mornings, the long nights, the repeated efforts, and the moments you chose to continue when quitting would have been easier. That awareness gives your success depth and meaning. Understanding that growth is happening even when you can't see it keeps you grounded and persistent. It protects you from discouragement and impulsive decisions. It reminds you that every step matters, even the small O. And every day of consistency adds weight to your future. When you stop demanding immediate proof and start trusting steady progress, you gain the patience and strength required to keep moving forward with confidence, knowing that what you are building in silence is preparing you for a moment when growth can no longer remain hidden. Real change in life is never accidental. It is created when belief and action come together and move in the same direction. Belief without action is nothing more than wishful thinking, and action without belief quickly turns into exhaustion. When the two are aligned, transformation becomes possible. Many people talk about wanting a better life, more peace, more success, or more purpose, but what separates those who change from those who stay stuck is not desire. It is the daily decision to believe differently and act intentionally. Belief is where everything begins. What you believe about yourself shapes what you attempt, tolerate, and pursue. If you believe you are limited, you will aim low. If you believe your past defines you, you will hesitate to step forward. If you believe your best days are behind you, you will stop investing in your future. Belief is not just a thought, it is an internal agreement that silently guides your behavior. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they doubt themselves long before they ever begin. Changing your belief system is the first step toward changing your results. However, belief alone is not enough. Action is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. Action turns internal conviction into external results. It is easy to feel inspired in a moment and do nothing afterward. Inspiration fades, but action creates momentum. Even small actions taken consistently build confidence because they provide evidence that you are capable. Each step forward, no matter how minor, weakens doubt and strengthens self-trust. One of the most powerful actions tied to change is forgiveness. Holding on to past pain, mistakes, or resentment drains emotional energy that could be used to build the future. Forgiveness is not forgetting or excusing what happened. It is choosing not to let it control your present. When you forgive, you release yourself from being emotionally tied to the past. That release creates mental space for clarity, creativity, and growth. Without forgiveness, belief struggles to survive because bitterness constantly reminds you of old wounds instead of new possibilities. Attitude is another critical action point. Attitude determines how you experience life, not just what happens in it. Two people can face the same challenge and walk away with completely different outcomes based on attitude alone. Choosing a positive, resilient attitude does not mean denying difficulty. It means refusing to be defeated by it. When belief says your future can improve, attitude decides whether you show up with hope or hesitation. A strong attitude reinforces belief by reminding you that setbacks are temporary and effort is worthwhile. Taking action despite doubt is where real growth occurs. Doubt is not a sign that you are incapable. It is a sign that you are stepping outside of familiarity. Waiting for doubt to disappear before acting keeps you trapped. Confidence is built through experience, not imagination. You don't become confident and then act. You act, and confidence follows. Each time you move forward while uncertain, you prove to yourself that fear does not control you. Consistency is the quiet force behind transformation. Grand gestures are impressive, but daily discipline changes lives. Small, repeated actions compound over time and create lasting results. Consistency builds identity. When you consistently act in alignment with your belief, you start to see yourself differently. You no longer identify as someone who tries. You identify as someone who does. That shift in identity strengthens belief even further, creating a powerful cycle of growth. Belief also shapes how you interpret challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as signs to stop, you begin to see them as tests meant to strengthen you. Instead of asking why something is happening to you, you start asking what you can learn from it. This mindset does not remove hardship, but it removes hopelessness. Hope is what keeps action alive during difficult seasons, and belief is what fuels that hope. When belief and action work together, your relationship with failure changes. Failure no longer feels like a final verdict. It becomes feedback. You learn, adjust, and continue. This perspective allows you to take risks without being paralyzed by the possibility of mistakes. Growth requires experimentation, and experimentation requires the willingness to fail forward. Over time, the combination of belief and action creates visible change. Habits improve, confidence deepens, opportunities expand, and perspective shifts. People around you begin to notice the difference, not because you talk about change, but because you live it. The life you once imagined slowly becomes the life you are building through intentional choices. When you forgive the past, choose the right attitude, and take action even in uncertainty, you position yourself for transformation. Change is not a single moment. It is a series of aligned decisions made daily. When belief fuels your mindset and action fuels your movement, you stop waiting for life to change and start becoming the reason it does. Ladies and gentlemen, if you change the way you talk to yourself in the morning, you will change the way your life responds to you. Speak strengths. Speak purpose. Speak faith. Because every morning is not just another day, it's another chance.